Yes, it's that time of the week again. The Lowdown is back on your screens, and today we've got a Man United special. Coming up, we assess Ruben Amorim's biggest problem at Old Trafford.
United never create any attacking patterns to put the number 9 through on goal in a 1v1.
Is there any hope of things improving at United between now and the end of the season?
There's a lot of players within this squad and within this team that he knows he doesn't want. They're not really going to pull their weight and dig in deep and fight for the club or the manager when they know they're not going to be there.
And we take a look at the surprise striker United could sign in the summer.
Obviously, the comment's going to rip me apart on that one, but he would be better than any of our current forward options.
Hello, welcome back to the Lowdown. Doogie away this week after holding down the fort for 3 weeks in my absence. Very well-deserved break for him. And I'm joined by Joe Thomlinson and Adam Mckola making his debut on the show.
Thank you for having me, man.
Yeah.
Big dog's here.
It's a pleasure.
How are we doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Apart from the football, I'm very good.
Yeah, well, we're getting onto that right now. We may as well get straight into it. As you can tell from the title and the intro, it's a Man United special. I think it's our second Man United special of the season.
We did one. That's how you know it's a bad season, isn't it? Yeah. You either winning the league or you get relegated.
Yeah.
You keep having specials.
The third how to fix. We did one when Ruben Amorim came in, and it feels like, maybe even a little bit overdue to take a check on Ruben Amorim at Man United. We are filming this before the Ipswich game, just before the Ipswich game.
3-0
But
Ipswich.
I don't think the result, whether it's 3-0 Ipswich or 3-0 United, will have too much bearing on where we stand here. Let's come to you, Mckola, first. Ruben Amorim so far, 2 wins in the last 10 Premier League games coming into the Ipswich match. In terms of form under Amorim, right down there. I think only the 3 relegation zone clubs have a worse record since Amorim came in the Premier League. Where do you stand on Ruben Amorim so far, and what do you think his biggest problem is?
You know what's mental? You said we've won 2 out of the last 10 games. I hadn't even realised it. It's almost how like my expectations just been drilled into the ground that I haven't even noticed we've only won 2 out of the last 10 games. Like, it's mental. But where I am with Ruben Amorim is where I was 4 weeks ago. Look, I think he's made some in-game mistakes. I think he's made maybe some mistakes with substitutions, things like that. He's not been perfect. But I am where I was before. Like, we have to stick with this guy. We have to give him some time. We have to allow him the space to do all the things that we wanted to do when you would have done that first video when he arrived. Changing the culture, being himself, trying to put his imprint on this club. We have to allow him to be given that time. And he's doing it with a backdrop of loads of change. The owners aren't wanted at the club. INEOS have come in and they're having to make all these difficult decisions, which are there because the Glazers have run us badly into the ground. You look at the fact we spent $1 billion on interest alone on the debt that's still there and bigger than it was when they arrived in 2005. So he's having to do it with the backdrop of all of that going on. He hasn't been able to bring in any of his own players apart from Patrick Dorgu. So I'm still in the same place. I know it's a very boring answer, but I can't. 4 weeks ago, I can't go, you know what, we need to give him time to make all these changes. And then after 4 weeks, because we haven't got the results, kind of panic. And I think that's what a lot of people do. They have these, I've repeated myself on this so many times, but I'll say it again. They have these ideals of allowing someone to change the culture, allowing someone to be themselves, change, don't... Remember when Ten Hag came in and he went, after a couple of weeks, he went, I can't play like I did at Ajax. And we went, so why are you here? Why are you here then? If you're not going to be yourself and you're not going to do the football, play the football that got you into this position to get the job, then why are you here? And I think we have to allow him that time and not panic and not, just as soon as a couple of results don't go away, go, all right, now he needs to leave. I think give him some time, let him get to pre-season. But he has to earn it as well, of course.
Yeah, well, it's interesting you mentioned that, of course, like that has kind of been Amorim's kind of line, hasn't it, since he's come in, is that he's got to do it his way. There's going to be no compromises. But like you say, he's got to earn that summer window in that second season. Only 4 wins in the Premier League so far, Joe, scoring 1.2 goals a game. I think if United had their current form over the course of a season, they'd end the season with minus 18 goal difference. I mean, at the moment...
Is that an improvement of last year?
It may well be. But he's still got the backing from Old Trafford. Old Trafford classically is a place where the managers retain backing pretty much right up until the very end. But how bad do you think it does have to get before Ruben Amorim's job is actually called into question, despite, it's still being 3 months in?
I think it's a difficult question to answer, because I think in the eyes of the fans, it could get really bad. I think, me and Adam will agree that he should definitely be given the season, should definitely be given time, but there is only so many games you can lose, isn't there, in a realistic world. I think the bigger issue potentially is that within the squad, do you start to lose faith in someone when you're only losing every single week? Now, I personally wouldn't. I as a fan, I'm absolutely backing Ruben Amorim, but I think there will be characters in that squad that will be saying, oh, we're losing every week, I'm not playing particularly well, can I throw another manager under the bus? We've seen managers be thrown under the bus, by players at Manchester United in the past, and I really hope that doesn't happen to Ruben Amorim. I think it's very difficult for him, being a very young manager who's still learning his trade to a level, to come into an experience like this, an environment like this, with pressure like this, to have players sold in January, not recruited in the right areas, asked to change an entire footballing philosophy with a team that, despite the fact we finished 8th last year, we're lucky to finish 8th. I think by expected goals, expected points, we should have finished 15th in the league under Erik ten Hag last year. It's a real revert to type, basically, where we are now. We were a middle-table club last season. We're a mid-table club this season, with arguably a worse squad post-January, given that we've sold, 2 attackers, or loaned 2 attackers out, recruited none, and we've got our player of the season, Ahmad, out injured for the entire campaign. I think that Ruben Amorim has been dealt a really, really poor hand. I just think he needs to somehow, however he does it, start picking up some points. Just start getting some wins together for confidence, even if that means, you have to drop another man back into the midfield, even if that means you have to be a little bit more pragmatic. Not saying change up the 3-4-3, because 100% he should stick with that. There's no way he should move to a back 4, which people have talked about. But I just think in game, maybe he has to go a little bit more pragmatic and just start picking up some wins somehow, because, like you say, at the end of the day, does the squad start to lose faith if you should never win any games?
I love you. I'm glad you said that about the back 4, because we were 13th with a back 4.
Terrible with a back 4. I'm so tired of that narrative.
We never got going with a back 4. But at the same time, you know how you say a lot of the players may lose faith in him? I think, and someone asked me the other day, doesn't he have to get the best out of the squad and the players that he's got? That's all well and good, but I think there's a lot of players within this squad and within this team that he knows he doesn't want. He knows.
I agree.
And they know they're not going to be there for the future. So
sure.
They're not really going to pull their weight and dig in deep and try and fight for the club or the manager when they know they're not going to be there. You're looking around at the squad going, who do you want to be there next season?
And I think
there's not many of them.
That is an argument, isn't it? It's why change? People keep saying change up your 4, go to the back 4 again. Why change your tactics for this group of players who arguably aren't going to be there in the long run, arguably aren't going to deliver major silverware? So why would you shift up your tactics for a group of players that you don't think are going to be there over the next 18 months? If you're Amorim, that must be playing in his mind, right?
Do you remember when Ange Postecoglou, we just got there at Spurs and they got beat 4-1 off Chelsea? And I think they were down to 9 men.
On the halfway line.
And people criticising him because they just kept going for it. And I believe that if that was now, maybe he does tighten up a little bit because it's so long into his tenure. But at that point in his tenure, he couldn't go, I've got a philosophy, and then halfway through a game go, you know what, lads, let's just all sit in deep, because it immediately goes against the philosophy he's trying to get across to the club and get across to the players. And whilst he got criticised for that, I thought it was quite brave and probably the right thing to do in that time. Yes, you've lost the game 4-1, but you've let your players know I'm going to live and die by these ideals. And I quite admire that. As well, we're talking about the players. Casemiro I love Casemiro for what he's achieved in the game. He deserves a lot of respect. But he's having to play Casemiro and Eriksen. I think the first game he played against Ipswich, we knew those guys couldn't play together again. And he had to play them. These players know they're not going to be his players next season. So I think he's in
that is a problem.
A very difficult place with that.
I think that's a problem.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get on to injuries in a little bit and the playing squad. I mean, it's interesting you bring up Ange Postecoglou there, another manager who's been in deep trouble this season. And yeah, I do see. I think to make a counterpoint to that argument about sticking to the philosophy, I think the problem with the Premier League now is that the the kind of middle class of the Premier League, kind of Bournemouths, Brightons, Aston Villa, who are obviously in the Champions League this season. The quality in that middle bracket is so high, and the level of management is so high that I think it's a lot harder now to imprint your philosophy on a top club in the Premier League and get away with it. When you were Jurgen Klopp back in 2015 with Liverpool, the quality overall in the Premier League and the managerial quality in the Premier League was pretty low compared to what it is now. Even Pep at Man City, they were able to really imprint themselves on the Premier League and define what was to come. I think it's a lot harder to do that now when you're coming up against Iraola every week, when you're coming up against Graham Potter at West Ham, who tactically very, very evolved. See what West Ham did to Arsenal on the weekend. I just think there's so little room to breathe, and so
he can't go away from the 3-4-3 though. He cannot. Oh,
no, I'm not suggesting that he.
That is his bread and butter.
I'm not necessarily saying it's just about the shape, but clearly, I think in years gone by, Amorim may have started to see a few more results, by sticking to his philosophy than he has at the moment. And you look at it, the head-to-head table for clubs currently between 11th and 16th. So that's Spurs, Crystal Palace, West Ham, Brentford, and Everton, and Man United. Man United at bottom of that table. They've taken 7 points from 6 games against those clubs, so it's not even like it's in fact, I mean, United have had better results against teams higher up the table, but that's where United are at the moment. So it does feel like there does have to be a bit more pragmatism there. But you guys mentioned the lack of options in midfield. I guess the question is, and we'll get on to potential summer signings in a bit, but the squad building over the last few years, I mean, what do you feel like this is the defining problem for Amorim, or do you think it's injuries? Where are you at with that? Because I mean, Mazraoui and De Ligt, I think, are the only summer signings who feature among the top 10, 11 most used players this season. Of course, Agate's had injury problems, Lloris has injury problems as well. Are there positives there, do you think, or are United due already another rebuild after spending so much money? I mean, Brighton and Chelsea, I think, are the only teams who spent more than United last summer.
When you look at all clubs, and you spoke about the kind of middle class in the Premier League, they all live and die by their recruitment. And Manchester United's recruitment has been amongst the worst in the Premier League over the last 10, 15 years, since Sir Alex Ferguson left. And even then, you could argue just before that, like with Fergie, we were kind of getting by just because of how much of a genius he was. So I think the recruitment is very, very important. I think last summer's signings, whilst I thought in hindsight it was a mistake to keep Ten Hag. I mean, before the FA Cup final, I was saying keep him regardless of what happens. Let's see what he can do with the new team in place. Obviously, that's probably a mistake. But you look at the recruitment we made then. De Ligt, I don't think it's a bad signing. Lenny Yoro, I don't think is a bad signing. Manuel Ugarte isn't either. There's still question marks over Joshua Zirkzee, although I absolutely love him. But I understand there's question marks there. I just think he's a footballer that I enjoy watching when he's in good form. And I think Mazraoui's been a very good signing, who's kind of, his form has dipped towards the back end of the season, but I think he started off and he arguably could have been our player of the year. And then you look at the other recruits that INEOS have made since they've arrived. They're all very young talent. And I kind of like us moving back towards that style of recruitment, in bringing in young players who can improve at the club, and if they don't, you can still get a resale value on them because they're very young and you're not getting them to huge contracts. So I like where our recruitment's going, but I do think the main issues for United has been recruitment. Like, you look at Anthony was £80 million, he's playing for Real Betis, and I'm not being fooled by his form there. Casemiro was £65 million, and again, love Casemiro, but is not the guy. I don't think he can do it in the Premier League anymore. What other signings have we got in the team that I really like? The recruitment is the big issue for Manchester United. We spent all this money on players. Jadon Sancho's at Chelsea at the moment. That's just between those three players, it's like a couple of $100 million in signings. So I think readdressing the recruitment and getting the recruitment right is massively important for Manchester United, and hopefully we can move in a better direction with that. And it kind of, for all the mistakes INEOS have made, and I think a lot of the decisions they're making are because of the errors that the Glazers have made, I do think the recruitment has kind of moved into an area where I would like to see it.
Yeah, you make a good point there. I mean, of a lot of those signings made last summer, I think especially with the fee that was paid for Xerxes, right? Even if Xerxes doesn't work out in the end, he's had a pretty troubled first season. Still not sure where he fits in this United side.
He's just such a joyful footballer, though.
When he's given space between the
I'm finding
lines.
my wins in very weird place at the moment. I know we're 15th, but just watching him play football. I think it was the Spurs game where again we lost. But I was like, he was class. He was. I don't know if I've got deluded or whatever, but I just thought watching him was just fun.
I think
he's the kind of player I like to watch, and I think with the right runners around him, he could be good because his passing ability is very good. He links up play really well. He drops deep. He's quite strong. You just need like a Rashford on the side of him. Do you know what I mean? Stretching the play and making those runs in behind.
Yeah, if only we had a Rashford-style player. I mean, but I think you're right to bring it up. I was watching the Everton game on the weekend, and United were pretty, completely dire, especially in the first half. But there was Patrick Dorgu was making good runs, down the left and linking up quite well with the Ugarte as well. And it's like you do have to pick out those positives, don't you? And you do have to remember, United are literally 15th. There are going to be some positive patches, even though the overall performances, are so far off the level. Let's get into individual displays, I guess, because I think one player who's taking a lot of heat at the moment is Rasmus Hojlund. Only 2 goals so far this season in 21 appearances. I mean, yeah, where do you guys stand on him? Because it feels like, especially the last month, he has been, he really has struggled a lot, hasn't he? I mean, in 70 minutes against Everton, 0 shots. He only had 12 touches. Only 4 of those came in the Everton half, by the way. 7 passes. Those are the kind of stats that taken in isolation don't mean that much, but when you look at the overall performance and how much he was getting out-muscled off the ball by Tarkowski, just his general style of play just didn't seem to bring anything to what United were trying to do. And when he came off, Chido actually, was stretching play a little bit more, dropping deep, giving other players space. Do you think he's someone who, given his age, could be a potential sale in the summer if the right offer came in, or do you think United?
I wouldn't be selling Rasmus Hojlund in the summer. For me, no. I think the price tags really worked against Rasmus Hojlund, for one. I think the fact he was bought for £74 million, he can't change. And obviously, it is a massive amount of money. So immediately, people look at him as a number 9 that should be banging 15 goals a season. And when in reality, United have signed, a 21-year-old kid here who had very limited experience in Serie A and should really be coming in as, a squad player. Should be coming in behind number 9, who maybe he gets 20 minutes off the bench. Now what we're seeing is Chido Obi get 20 minutes off the bench at 17, when that should really be Rasmus coming on and offering a different alternative to an experienced, established number 9. The fact he was given the number 9 shirt as well, I think adds weight, right? It adds pressure onto his shoulders. And sure, he's not in goal-scoring form, but I think you can put it mostly down to confidence. It's not like he is a poor player, Rasmus Hojlund. I really disagree with that sort of narrative that's being built online of him as some sort of meme footballer. In his first campaign, I saw a really good variety of finishes, some from the outside of the box, some in the box. The turn against Tottenham, finished top corner, the run from the halfway line in the Europa League. This is a naturally talented footballer who is badly out of form, badly out of confidence. But I think one of his biggest issues is United create no chances. I was listening to Ruben Amorim in his press conference yesterday. I couldn't have agreed more. He is not the problem. He is a symptom of a major problem at United, which is a total lack of attacking identity. United are not creating 4 or 5 chances a game for the number 9. He is not touching the ball in the box, so he's having to come searching for it, which is not necessarily his game. He's having to get involved in physical battles with centre-backs because United don't have flying wingers that are cutting the ball back and he's having 3 or 4 great opportunities a game. He's having less than a shot per 90. He's having 1 shot per 90. It's in the bottom 1% of all European strikers. He's not getting in the areas to affect serious change in this Manchester United squad. He isn't the most naturally gifted in terms of his link-up play with his back to goal, and we've seen that. But that's not where you want Hojlund. I want Hojlund in the box, trying to make change, trying to affect problems on the opposition. When do you ever see Rasmus Hojlund have a touch in the box? United never create any attacking patterns to put the number 9 through on goal in a 1v1, cut the ball back and he's got a tap in, whip the ball across the box and he's flying in. I don't see those opportunities being created, and I think that combined with a total lack of confidence has led to a situation where you're asking a 21-year-old to do too much on the pitch. He should be coming on in 15-minute spells at the end of games for Manchester United, and the fact United paid such a big fee for him has really hurt.
So what do you think the solution to that is? Because
the solution to that is United need to sign an established number 9.
But we'll get onto that. But between now and the end of the season, we've seen this United forward line.
There's no
change
solution
almost
to it
week
between
week.
now and the end of the season. There is no solution between now and the end of the season. The solution between now and the end of the season, in reality, is to survive in the league. That is the solution. Like the reality of it is,
survive in the league. The goals need to come from somewhere, though.
Yeah, and they're not gonna come flat out in the way United play football with his squad. I don't see any world in which United suddenly start scoring 2 or 3 goals a game. It's just not going to happen. But there isn't a solution between now and the end of the season. I truly believe that. I think you've got to get to the summer, take your licks, survive in the league, and then reassess. I don't see a world in which United, however they line up, whoever the personnel is, however many tactical changes they make, suddenly become a free-flowing attacking team. The only way I think United score goals is through Bruno Fernandes or Garnacho potentially getting a scrubby little attempt at the back post, because United's actual build-up play and creative patterns, they don't exist. We don't create any chances ever. So it doesn't matter who the number 9 is. Do you see a way in which United suddenly start scoring goals? I don't see it.
Adam,
what do you
think?
Hojlund, though, I do see where you're coming from with Rasmus Hojlund. Like, I think he's a big talent, and I think what we got to remember as well is he's trying to learn his trade and learn his game whilst playing under the pressure and the spotlight of being a Manchester United player. And I think we've seen more accomplished players crumble under the pressure of the weight of the shirt. And there's always people going, why is Anthony doing well at Betis and why is Wan-Bissaka doing well at West Ham? All due respect to those clubs, they don't come with the pressures of playing for Manchester United. You could blame maybe that's some toxicity with Manchester United fans, but also in general, I just think it's this fishbowl that you're playing in, and there's all these eyes on you, and the pressure just builds and builds and builds. And look at Romelu Lukaku, a much more seasoned striker, a player that's so used to scoring goals. When people started talking about his performance there, he just suddenly forgot how to control a ball and things like that. So I do think the pressure and the weight of the shirt of playing for Manchester United plays a big part. And I do think Rasmus Hojlund, whether that's at United or not, will be a very good European striker. Whether that's the best or not, I don't know. But he will be a very good striker. And you look at his first season, he scored 16 goals when Manchester United, again, weren't creating many chances. His form in Europe's always been very, very good. I think when we went out of Europe, he was like top scorer in the Champions League when we went out of the competition. And I did feel a little bit for him then, because, if United go through the group and he's top goal scorer, suddenly people start to remember that actually he scored a lot of goals in the Champions League. But having said all that, I do think, and again, I know the pressure plays a part to it, but I do think he doesn't help himself at times. I think he has got into his own head. I think, like you say, he's always fighting with defenders, and I feel like he's trying to add that to his game, but then he's forgot about all the other aspects of his game. Good strikers can make bad passes look good sometimes. Very good strikers will always get across their defenders when balls are coming into the box. And I think there's times where he lets himself down in doing the very basics of a striker. And again, that could just be because the pressure's building and he's in his own head. He doesn't get a break because he has to start every single game. There's no striker there to even give him advice or give him any little tidbits on, Ruud van Nistelrooy is no longer there. We haven't got a Zlatan around in the dressing room anymore to kind of lead him. So I think there's a player in there, and I think he could do more to help himself. But I think, again, it's a symptom of the problems at Manchester United.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think it's clear to see that Hojlund just isn't playing to his strengths at the moment, and like you both say, confidence plays a massive role in that. And yeah, the kind of the pressure of playing for United now is such a burden, whereas in the past, I think with a different culture at the club, it was seen as a privilege, wasn't it? And I guess that's where United fans hope Ruben Amorim can take the club back to.
Also, you look at the fans have also like, when you're charging ridiculous money for tickets now, it's like you've seen Spurs fans go to games and demanding trophies. Spurs fans that have never seen a trophy in their life, it's because they're paying such high ticket prices. And the same goes to Man United, where you're going, right, if we're paying this much, you better entertain us now.
Yeah.
There's that expectation of, we want to see trophies, goals or something because we're paying the money for it. So I think the added ticket prices are also leading to fans just getting a little bit more.
Yeah, let's get on to that actually, because I think it's, it's all well and good talking about everything on the pitch, but when we talk about the culture of a football club, I think it's very easy just to talk about the playing staff and the coaching staff and, I don't know, the analytics department, whatever. But it feeds into the entire club, and what INEOS have done over the last 12 months, has played, I think, incredibly badly in the media. I assume incredibly badly with the fans in terms of the ticket prices, in terms of the amount of club staff who have been let go. We saw this week, Ruben Amorim's going to be eating soup and sandwiches for the rest of the season. Canteen at Old Trafford is getting shut down. I mean, as a match-going fan, Adam, like what has been the perspective on INEOS so far?
I've been very critical of some of the decisions they've made, like the ticket prices one, taking away concessions to ticket prices. And I think what they thought was, because it was a small percentage of the tickets, that fans like myself who are season ticket holders wouldn't really care because it doesn't affect me. But it's good to see all fans come together and kind of go, even like from other clubs as well, saying like, you can't exploit our loyalty, and it's their debt, not our debt. Why are we paying for it? The Glazers take out 70 million a year in dividends and the interest that we've got to pay, and then all of a sudden the fans have to kind of clear this debt. So it's not going well with fans. It's not, but also I think fans understand that INEOS and Jim Ratcliffe are in a position, and they're in this position because of the Glazers, and they're kind of taking, they're standing in the line and they're taking the bullets at the moment, but it is ultimately the issue of the Glazers, and they're just trying to sort it out. So I do have a little bit of sympathy for them in that they've kind of got to come into a club and make all these decisions and change. Sacking people isn't nice, but you could argue maybe it needs to be done. You look at the fact that the numbers in employees have almost doubled since 2012, and you compare it to other clubs, and we have way more staff than them. Surely alarm bells may start ringing, like, why have we got all these people in position? But again, they've got to make the difficult decisions because of the position that they're in. But they've put more money into the club than the Glazers. What I mean? Like, so I think it's a difficult one for them, and it'd be interesting to see what kind of impact that does have, because we already know we've got PSR issues. We need to be able to be in a position to spend money in the summer to help the manager. So I think they're in a very, very difficult decision because of the Glazeronomics at the club, and they're kind of standing in the firing line for them.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, it does feel like everything, from the last kind of 10, 15 years is coming to a head at this point. It's years of mismanagement. And yeah, right now, I imagine United is a pretty
Can you
tough
imagine
place
they
to
hadn't
work,
come in though,
yeah,
and hadn't made the investments, where we'd be?
It's hard to say, really.
But I think the situation would be a lot worse than it is at the moment, and it's already a bad situation. And it shows you how important getting Champions League football is.
Yeah.
I think Liverpool from the group stages made £100 million. I hate that we have to start thinking, about PSI and things like that as fans. But that's what the club have to do. They have to get back into it.
And I think that's why, under the Glazers, it was a more predictable time in some ways, because you kind of knew that if the manager wasn't going to get top four, if that was becoming mathematically impossible, the job was gone, basically. Whereas, in the last 2 years, especially with Erik ten Hag getting that new contract in the summer, that didn't happen, and that was one of the first, I think, big mistakes of Jim Ratcliffe, which has already cost the club so much money. And you look at the redundancies, you look at the changes being made, you're looking at the cutbacks, and it's a drop in the ocean compared to what the money that's been wasted already in that sense. But let's get on to this summer. Talking of money, we're not sure exactly how much money there is going to be to spend for Man United, but it's certain that there needs to be significant investment in the playing squad. Joe, where do you think United needs to target number one this summer? I know there's a few areas, but where would you prioritise?
I think a senior striker obviously is the standout position for Manchester United to support Rasmus Hojlund, take some of the burden off him, play the majority of the games and allow him to develop as a 21, 22-year-old should be allowed to develop. But I also think central midfield is becoming a real issue for Manchester United, as we've seen with the position of Bruno Fernandes having to play 2 or 3 different roles, be it a number 10. Recently, he's dropped back into an 8, almost like a deep line 6. 6 against Everton when it was kind of dictating the play. But United don't really have a player that can progress the ball from deep to the forward areas. I think it's been a consistent issue build-up. Every single time I watch United play, it's like, how are they getting the ball from A to B? And they're not. It's either going in a U shape amongst the centre-backs, or it's being pumped long up towards Rasmus Hojlund. He's battling with the defender and losing it. So United, I think, need to find a deeper lying playmaker who can get on the ball alongside Ugarte and can just progress it, can dictate it. Anybody who watched Crystal Palace last night would have seen Adam Wharton get on the ball and just fire balls relentlessly through the lines into the 10s, and that effectively changed the game for them. He is an absolute master of that, and I'm not saying Manchester United can go and sign Adam Wharton, because I think it's absolutely ridiculous to suggest that, given the financial implications. How much Crystal Palace would ask for might be upwards of £80 million. The position he's in and the position that they're in, why would they sell to Manchester United? So I don't think he's unrealistic, but a player in that role that can progress the ball for Manchester United is absolutely vital. So I think a central midfielder, maybe 2, to be honest with you, and a number 9. I also just think we don't have anybody who is physical. We don't have physicality in this team. The midfield is too easy to run past. I think at times the centre halves are too easy to run down the channels. Lack of physicality, lack of ball progression, lack of goals are the biggest problems I think need to be addressed.
Is there someone you have in mind who has that physicality, also has that ability to progress play in that way?
Well, I think United need to be realistic. In the number 9 role, I think everybody's like, oh, let's go get Viktor Osimhen. Right, that is like the guy, isn't it? It feels like goal scorer.
It's 1 or 2 Victors, isn't it?
Available. Yeah, well, it is 1 or 2 Victors. That's what people are saying. Is that realistic?
We'll end up with Maldry.
Is it realistic United can go and get Osimhen? I'm very unconvinced. He's going to want an absolutely monstrous wage when United are trying to decrease the wage. He is going to have offers from Champions League clubs, despite the fact he's been playing in Turkey. I think he's probably going to want a monster signing on fee, which United might not be able to offer. So I'm a little bit unconvinced that Viktor Osimhen will want to play for Manchester United. He's going to have to take time out of the Champions League.
On the flip side to that, though, we might be in the Champions League because we're going to win the Europa League.
I love the positivity, but I think also, it's unrealistic, man.
I think him, because when he was at Napoli, he was hot, right?
Yeah.
He was really hot. People talking about 100 million plus, and he's kind of, because he's made this move to Galatasaray, I think it'd be easier to tempt him over to Manchester United.
I just think
still at a very good age. Remember him? He loved Igalo. He had the United shirt.
United are going to finish 16th or 17th.
We're going to be in the Champions League.
That is, for
mental,
me,
isn't it?
unrealistic to sign Viktor Osimhen. I think United potentially might look closer to home. I think United have had a problem in recent years not signing enough Premier League proven players. To be honest with you,
are you saying like an Mbeumo or something?
I think Mbeumo would be an amazing pickup for Manchester United, who could play either as a number 9 or in one of those 10 roles. Definitely more creative, more physical, a better goal scorer than pretty much anybody in our forward line. But I also think somebody like Liam Delap. Yeah. If Ipswich go down, they might end up staying up and swapping places with Manchester United at this rate. And I expect him to probably bag at Old Trafford by the time you've watched this. It'd be massive surprise if he doesn't score there. I think that is a more realistic target, man. I think for a club like Manchester United, in the position they're currently in, with Ipswich going down, his physicality on and off the ball, his age range, that smells more of an INEOS signing to me than Osimhen or Gyokeres, which I think are unrealistic.
It was weird because it was asking for a loan off a team that we consider ourselves bigger than, but I wanted Evan Ferguson on loan, just while his stocks were low. Just see what's going on with him, how his injuries are, and what he can do. Because bringing him on loan would have been ideal for us in terms of the financial implications, and it would have been nice to check him out. I also have a theory we'll never win the league till we have an Irishman in the team.
I think the only thing I'm going to say is, even to my point about Delap and Evan Ferguson, is this the established name to take the burden off of Hojlund? Or is it another... It's not really, is it? Is there... I think, honestly, I'm going to get shot down in the comments. I'm going to get murdered. I think United could do... I heard Merson say it the other day. I think United could do worse than Mateta. He's scored a bag full of goals this season and last season, playing in a 3 at the back system under Oli Glasner, where he leads the line with 2 number 10s playing off him. It's not pretty, but the position United are in, United need to get real about signing. We're going to bring Osimhen in. We're going to bring, Florian... It's never happening. United need to find players that can take the burden off some of these youngsters and have experience in the Premier League. He won't be pretty, and he probably would only score 10, 12 goals, but it's 10 more goals than anybody else in United's front line scoring right now.
But do you not think this is, I mean, I definitely see your point. I think, since Glasner came in at Crystal Palace, I think only Salah, Haaland and Isak have scored more goals in the Premier League. Like, Mateta is in hot form and, is at this point, very much Premier League proven. But does a signing like Mateta not just kind of rip up what INEOS have been trying to do in the transfer market so far in terms of bringing in players who can shape a system for the future at United?
I think United have got to survive, man. United have got to survive. This idea
we're going to be all right, man. Relax.
This idea and this talk of like, shaping the future, blah, blah, blah. United have got to get in a position where they're winning games to be able to shape a future. Honestly, the position we are in, like, people seem to just be thinking, we'll be fine, we can progress. Next season, if things don't go right this summer, United will be in a relegation battle again. They will. Yeah. Like,
I don't disagree.
The points total across the last 2 seasons, the underlying numbers in terms of shots, the expected goals, everything points to a 15th place finish every season. And it's all well and good saying United should go out and sign these young players, talented players. We can look at players in Liga, we can look at these young 19-year-old Serie A talents, and they might change the game in the future. United have got to get in a position where they can mobilise up the table now by signing at least 1 or 2 proven Premier League players, I believe. I think United can't even do what Chelsea have done, which is go and pick out all these world-class talents and hope they come together. I think if you ask Chelsea fans now, would you take a player like Mateta? They'd probably say, yeah, we need some proven Premier League talent in there. We need a bit of experience to lead the line. And it's not pretty, I know. And it's obviously the comments are going to rip me apart on that one. But he would be better than any of our current forward options. Yeah,
I mean, he's certainly in much better form, also playing in a 3-4-3 of sorts under Glasner as well, kind of knows the system. Adam, is there anyone who you would be prioritising this summer in terms of a signing, anyone you've got your eye on?
I mean, I've gone beyond, like, I used to be a guy that just always had a list of players that I wanted us to sign, but I've become a little bit, I just want to see us make signings for the right reasons, do our research on them, and I would like to see us go back to signing the best young talent. And I agree with Joe, we do need some experienced heads in there.
In the front line especially.
But the right experienced heads, like, we don't want to go out making Casemiro signings again. So I do agree we need some more experience in there, but I do like the idea of us targeting the best young players, about getting in there early. Like, there was the likes of Moises Caicedo we were linked to, Erling Haaland we were linked to when they were tearing it up and just on the come up, and we never ever made the jump and went and signed them. And how much money would that save you further down the line? You don't end up spending 65 million on Casemiro, and you don't end up looking around the market for different strikers. So I want to see us go for those younger players. Again, I've seen about 10 minutes of him, but targeting someone like Giovanni Kenda, again, I like the idea of that, bringing in someone who's a wing back in a position that we need to. I think we do need young wing backs. Players that can continuously get up and down the pitch, and that's where I think a lot of the width will come from, a lot of the attacking intent will come from when you've got players that will go beyond your front three, and we don't have enough of that at the moment. I also think Mazraoui's best position's in probably right centre back in this formation. Sure. You got Diogo Dalot, who I'm a big fan of. I thought he was excellent last season. I don't think he's been great this season, but we need more in those positions. I think Patrick Dorgu's showing he was the right choice so far. It's very early days, so getting someone else in a position like that would be nice. I think I like what I've seen from Dean Huijsen at is that his correct pronunciation? At Bournemouth.
He's got a release clause in the summer, Dean Howson, but again,
it's a big release clause though, isn't it?
I think it's like 55 million.
Still the one thing I would say to you. Why would
Dean Howson choose to Man United?
One thing I would say, especially when some of the bigger clubs are going to be in for him. But what I would say to you is, United over the last couple of years, we've knocked a lot off our wage bill. Some big players have left the club, and some big players are going to continue to leave the club. You also look at the fact that Marcus Rashford is likely to leave. You're probably going to get around 30 to 40 million for him. Anthony's going to leave. Hopefully we'll get about 20 million for him, or whatever it is.
On big wages
Eriksen's going to leave. Casemiro's going to leave. Lindelof's going to leave. These are all players that are leaving, freeing up massive wages, and hopefully you're going to get a bit of a fee for some of them as well. You're going to get that 25 million for Jadon Sancho. You're going to fully have his wages off the books. So I think when you look at all these things, United should be in a position where we do have a little bit more funds to spend in the market. And I do like the idea of us filling the squad out with some of our younger players, so it all feels new going into the season. And yes, I know it might be a difficult season. You might be battling at the wrong end of the table, but kind of building from fresh. Yeah. We need this reset. We need to have young talent in there. We need to move towards a team that, you know, isn't full of signings that you look at and go, why did we do that? Why is Eriksen here? Like, Eriksen again, great career, fantastic guy, but he shouldn't be at Manchester United at the moment. And this is what we've got all over the park. Luke Shaw's still here. He can't get fit.
I do think that there is an argument to be made for, like, you know, a deep line player, like maybe like an Angelo Stieler, who's having like a fantastic season at Stuttgart, by far and away the most progressive deep line midfielder for his age in European football, and saying, do we just end up building midfields around players like him, Ugarte, who are in that sort of 23-year-old realm? And I think that is absolutely fine. I think that is definitely the way to go. But there is also an element where you have to have some players in your team in forward areas that are experienced at putting the ball in the net. Like, you really do. It's really asking a lot to have Garnacho, Ahmad and Hojlund as a front three and say, which one of you is going to score me 15 goals? Like, I think the pressure is immense there. Even Joshua Zirkzee, you know, he's 23, is he? You know, he's had a bright season in Serie A's Young Player of the Year, comes over here, struggles to score goals straight away. I think United need a centre-forward that has scored goals in the Premier League or has scored goals at a really elite level. And, like, that
so is Osimhen not that?
That is Osimhen, but I just don't see a world that's realistic, man. I don't see a world in which Osimhen comes to 14th, 15th place for Manchester United.
But we're going to be in the Champions League.
You're a madman.
I think the problem here is that the centre-forward position is just a hard one to fill, isn't it? I mean, you know...
And there's no guarantee Mateta would want to join Man United. There's no guarantee Crystal Palace would accept a fee for Mateta, who has been, like you said, a fourth highest scoring player in the Premier League since Glasgow took over. They might want themselves 60, 70 million pounds. It's totally realistic to suggest that. And I have to say that, like, the options in that market, in that position, concern me. I'm extremely concerned.
Well, I mean, look at Arsenal. You know, I know they probably messed up on missing out on Ollie Watkins when they had the chance, but like, they've struggled to fill that striker position over the last 2 years. And otherwise, I think they do represent the kind of model that United need to be going for. You look at, you know, how the squad age and the wage bill got slashed after, you know, gradually after Arteta came in, and how...
But look at the experienced Premier League players they signed.
Well, yeah, of course.
David Raya, who was an experienced Premier League operator.
And even Gabby Jesus during that rebuild came in.
Declan Rice came in, experienced Premier League. Zinchenko was a key factor in the development from stage 1 to stage whatever they're at now, the like laughable phase 5 sort of narrative. But he those 4 or 5 players were totally key to the development of players like William Saliba, who became one of the best right-sided centre-backs in world football because he had the support of experienced Premier League players alongside him.
But do you not think, you know, United... There is experience in that squad, though, right? You've got Andre Onana, who, you know, Champions League finalist with Inter
My
Milan.
head's gone with him, you know.
But you've got Matthijs de Ligt there, you've got Bruno Fernandes. It's not like this squad is completely bereft of experience.
It's pretty bereft of experience.
But, I mean, there is something to build on there, though, surely. I mean, you've got leaders in that team. Probably more leaders than there were 2 years ago.
Yeah, I don't know whether I necessarily would agree with that. I don't see a team packed with leaders there. I think there are some experienced players, but I think a number of them are going to leave in the summer. I think you're going to lose Johnny Evans, you're going to lose Casemiro, you're going to lose Eriksen. And then I look at the rest of the squad and I think in forward areas, who's experienced at Premier League level? Not that many. In midfield, you've got Ugarte, who's had 1 year there, Kobbie Mainoo, who's 19, Toby Collier, who's 21, then Bruno. Then at the back, you've got Maguire, who's just signed a 1 year contract extension, could have left in the summer. He might end up leaving.
Well,
you never know.
It was triggered, that one wasn't it? It wasn't. Yeah. He didn't sign a new deal.
I don't think it's a total guarantee Maguire's still there.
He shouldn't be.
At the end of the summer.
I think the Maguire thing, I think he's been much better this season. But I think while his stocks are back up, just cash him. If you can cash him.
I would keep him. But then, like, outside...
I don't mind. I'm not against him.
It's a young squad, man. Come the end of the summer, you're going to have a young squad there.
You mentioned Andre Onana there, Adam. Say your head's gone with him. Is that another player who you think could be expendable at United?
I expect him to be there next season. I just think there's so much work to be done that he'll probably, excuse the pun, slip through the net. Like he will just slip through the net and he'll still be there next season. But my head has gone. I kind of look at him in the same way I do Maguire now, where I think Maguire's been good this season at times, but he's always got a mistake in him. And I think Andre Onana's the same. And I think we've got to a position, like, let's say next season, somehow the summer goes great, we have a good summer, and we're fighting for top 4. He's gonna chuck one in the net at some point when it really counts. And that's where I was with De Gea. I think De Gea won Golden Glove in his last season. That was fantastic. But you think of some of those big performances he had, the cup final, for example. The Europa League, like, cost us massively at big moments. And I think Andre Onana will be that guy. Champions League last year, I think he was responsible for us going out of the group.
Yep.
As bad as that is to say, and I know he saved the penalty against Copenhagen late on and all that, but
a ton of mistakes otherwise.
And I don't think he's ever going to change.
I think you kind of raised a good point there. I mean, I think if United are going for top 4 next season and Andre Onana messes it up, I think that would be a great position for United to be in. To be honest, I think that gets to the point in some ways that Andre Onana, while he has been very error prone, especially of late, you know, he is still a very experienced keeper and, you know, saved United on a number of occasions earlier in the season. And when you look at the other areas of the squad that need work at United, I think they can probably afford to stick with him for now because, you know, the ambitions just aren't that high. Is Andre Onana the keeper to win you a Premier League title, to get you top 2 in the Premier League? Maybe not, but I think he is a goalkeeper who can be part of a United team that finishes 6th or 7th next season, and I think that's probably the realistic aim, isn't it, for United? Any other areas? I mean, I mentioned Quenda there. Are there any other right wing backs you had your eye on, Joe? Or
I think it's a difficult area to recruit right wing back as well. It's such a specialised position. It feels like the wing back roles are so specialised. I mean, I'm not sure if Frimpong's clause is still active come the summer.
Sure
I think it probably has been written out by now. But again, that kind of goes back to that planning last summer, doesn't it? You think if Ruben Amorim had been in the position he was, would United have tried to target Frimpong in that window when he had a release clause of sub £40 million? Probably. But I think the wing-backs are a really hard area to recruit. For me, it's the spine of the team has just massive issues. I think physically in the midfield, United are far too easy to run over, just consistently. Not enough physicality in there. To be honest with you, in the 10 roles, I think Mason Mount's injury has not been talked about enough. I think he would have started every game under Amorim in one of those 10
He
roles.
came in and he said, I really like he was... He very positive
so
about
perfect.
Mason Mount, wasn't he?
Literally so perfect for one of those 10 roles. We saw him operate in one of those 10 roles.
Can he find himself again?
Absolutely. I think I truly believe he's such a talented player, Mason Mount. If he could just stay fit, like we haven't seen him in a Manchester United shirt start more than 10 games in a row. Like, if he could re-find even 60% of the form we saw of him in that like Champions League run under Thomas Tuchel, effectively, where he's playing as member of a front three, like United would have a real high-level player there, but we just can't find any form because of injury. It's really frustrating. So fingers crossed he can come back injury-free for like 6 months. That'd be great. Yeah, be like a new signing.
And of course, like, I mean, injuries have been a massive issue, not only for Amorim, but for Ten Hag before. The last 2 seasons have been pretty dire in that respect, you know, with Lissandro and Ahmad both out for the season as well.
That's devastating, Lissandro.
And having those...
A left-footed centre-back is needed.
And he was progressing the ball. Like, you mentioned, you were talking about the midfield and how you need them to... He was doing that job in the midfield, bringing it forward and making some delightful passes, and then... Ahmad is just a constant threat, always scoring goals, always creating goals. He was great in the press. The amount of goal you watch United with Ahmad in the team, all the good moments come from him pressing, winning the ball off someone and then creating an opportunity. And he's got in to be without him, but again, be positive. He'll be back for next season.
Yeah, hopefully that will be a big boost come the summer, like a new signing, just to quote the cliche. But that's all we have time for today on the Lowdown. Thanks very much to Joe Thomlinson and Anna Mckola for joining me.
You need to chill with me a little bit and just get deluded, man.
Yeah, I feel like I do.
Just watch the highlights of Xerxes nutmegging everyone. You'll be back. You'll be back.
But yeah, I hope you guys can take some solace you know, in what I think has been some constructive chat over United and the future of United on this show. But yeah, thanks so much, guys, for joining us. Adam, where can the good people at home find you?
Stretford Paddock, the club, all over the internet. So yeah, just come and check us out. Yeah. Thank you for having me as well. It's been a pleasure.
Of course. Thanks for coming on board. Looking forward to having you back on the show in the not too distant future. Joe, yeah, thanks for
No worries,
coming
mate.
on board as
Anytime.
well.
Anytime.
Good
Hopefully
to see
under
you on.
more happy circumstances next time.
Yeah, I hope so too. Who knows? FA Cup, Europa League.
We're going to win the Europa League. We're going to be a Champions League team next season. Imagine that.
There's no way we beat.
We'll do a Wigan goal down, win the Europa League. We'll be the Championship and the Champions League.
That would be cool.
Bobby Martinez in charge as well. Who knows? But yeah, cool. I think we'll end it there. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.